In the primitive to later Christian histories, the spirit prison was an afterlife realm, which was also called the spirit prison, house, hell, limbo, Hades, purgatory, pit, the underworld, the lower regions, one of the realms of the dead, the grave, Sheol, and Gehenna, etc. The act of Christ's descent into hell to preach the gospel to the captives' spirits was also referred to as the harrowing of hell and descent. The liberation of the spirits was also referred to as the captives being liberated, where the grateful dead would come up out of the grave singing praises to Christ. There was also the resurrection, the anastasis, the rescue, and one of the passions. The descent was predicted and mentioned by many of the Old and New Testament writers, the earliest to later Christians, and it is found in many religious documents, poems, songs, legends, traditions. It was depicted in numerous artworks on monuments, stone carvings, book designs, illumination manuscripts, and glass windows. It was also dramatized in numerous mystery plays and rituals throughout history. Christ's descent made it possible for the dead to be able to live again and be set free from the bonds of death. For if they didn't have the chance during their mortal life to hear and obey the gospel, they would be given that opportunity in the afterlife realms. If, however, they did have the chance but were once disobedient and thus went to the spirit prison, upon hearing it again and repenting and living according to God in the spirit, they would eventually be released, resurrected, and guided over into paradise, having been redeemed from their sins. The different writings and artworks of the descent could include some or many different elements and symbolical types. There were numerous versions in each of the following, for the writer and artist had to decide which moment of the whole drama they wanted to depict or write about. Some writers mention how those who had preached Christ's coming into mortality while they were in mortality had gone on to continue to preach his coming to the spirits prisoners too after they had died. Some artists showed Christ kicking the doors of Hades, etc. Christ kicks at the doors of Hades and breaks them down. An angel, Michael, with a weapon, is ready to do battle with the underworld demons, while others show the moment when the doors began to fall. Others after they had fallen. Others when Christ stood on the doors and the underworld demonic monsters. Other artists at the moment when the captive spirits came forth to greet Christ, when Adam reaches forth his hand to clasp Christ's hand. Others show different types of hand and wrist grasps. Others had to decide to depict the moment when Christ began to turn, others of him turned to act as a guide at the moment when they began to ascend up towards paradise, while others show Christ presenting the liberated to his mother, and others of him bringing them to God the Father, or when Christ and the liberated had entered through the doors into paradise. In some artworks, Christ is seen in the spirit prison, preaching the gospel there, rather than as another standing on the doors of Hades. Others show Christ in the spirit prison, Hades, limbo, purgatory, preaching the gospel. It is after Christ's ascension out of hell that his post-resurrection victory march around the world takes place. Hence, some artists show these events in sections and series. For many early to later Christians, baptism was a type of Christ's descent into the spirit prison. For after having been anointed, they became an anointed one, or in other words, symbolically a Christ, after which they descended down into the baptismal waters as a type of how Christ had descended into the spirit prison. Thus, in some cases, they were baptized as if they were in the spirit prison. To understand how this was so, let's consider first the doctrine of Christ's descent. Peter wrote that there was an answer that the earliest Christians could give to the charges raised by early anti-Christians who had spoken evil against them. Some of the early critics charged that Christianity was new and therefore could not have been able to save anybody before the pre-Christian times. The answer to this charge and others was that Christ had descended into the spirit prison to preach the gospel there. 1 Peter chapter 3 verses 15 through 22, chapter 4 verses 5 through 6, Ephesians chapter 4 verses 7 through 10, Isaiah 42 6 through 7.